da hira 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 ya da hira 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 dum ay ya 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 da 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 ya da 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 ya da da ya da 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 ya ba bye bye ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da ya da ya da 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 ya da da hira hira ya da ya da hira ya da da ya da da hira hira ya da ay 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da da ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da da ya da da ya ba ba ya da 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 ya da 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 I da da ya da da ya da da Yai da da he da he da hi. Yai da he ya ba ba da 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 da. Ya da 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 ya da da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 ya da da. Ya da ya 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 ya. Yai da da yai da 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 ay 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 yai da da yai da da yai da 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 yai da Boker Tov, good morning from this late rabbi. Sorry for my lateness this morning, but it was definitely unavoidable. Just the chaos that was last night, and this morning was some more chaos. But Ellis is at school, and the girls are taking a nap, and here I am sitting here with you. And so, a little bit of wisdom. It's Wednesday, and so this is a place for connection. This is a place for learning. This is a place for understanding each other and the world, even though it's hard to understand the world in these moments. But we turn to text, we turn to Torah, we turn to a little ancient wisdom that maybe can take us somewhere. We are at the week before, almost to Shabbat before Pesach. It's always strange when the holiday starts like directly after Shabbat. And yes, we're not, the majority of us, if any, are Shomer Shabbat or Shomer Shabbat. But it's, one thing goes into another. Some people love that Pesach begins on the weekend or on Saturday night. It's easier for gatherings and getting people together, and nobody has to say, well, I'm working, well, I'm going to be late. What is the timing? Do I have to travel? And so there are perks to it. But for the ones that are working Shabbat as leaders or observing Shabbat as people, it sometimes adds to some confusion. Imagine for the observant what it's like to come off Shabbat where there's no use of electricity and things, to roll directly into the food and the ritual and the existence and the experience of Pesach. Like, you really got to be planning ahead, which is it's mind-blowing how they get it all together. It's truly unbelievable. So let's talk about this week's Parsha for a moment. Maybe it'll be a little insight about Pesach here, tomorrow, Friday, whatever it is. It says in this week's Parsha, in this week's text, in this week's black letters on parchment, Moses took some of its blood and put it on the ridge of Aaron, his brother's right ear, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. Moses repeated this process on Aaron's sons as well. what is this blood placing that's happening here? This was a ritual that was part of the ordination of Aaron and his sons as high priests. But why was blood applied to these particular parts? Why was it only on the right side? Why was it on the ear, the thumb, and the toe? Why wasn't it on the eyebrow? Why specifically? Rabbi Brad Artson says that the ear, the thumb, and the toes symbolize the whole body. Something from the head, something from the middle, something from the bottom. Torah teaches us that the service to one's people or God needs to be whole and total. It needs to be with your whole self. Often our hearts may feel like they're somewhere, but our minds are somewhere else, or vice versa, and we're not really fully immersed and emerged because, well, we live in a world that is upside down, our lives often challenging, and we make a commitment to be here or to be there, wherever we are, but our mind is somewhere else, because if it's more than 10, 15 minutes, we can't even focus on it anymore. But it is said that we learn from this about whole and total. Why does Torah say, or why does Torah choose the ear instead of the eye or the mouth? I think as Jews, our tradition is quite visionary, or is orated. And it seems like they would have gone with an eye or a mouth. But perhaps true communal leadership requires listening. Listening not only to the needs of the people, but to the truth and the inspiration that transcends our everyday life. Someone said to me recently, and I've heard it over and over again, it usually has to do with funerals or understanding somebody's child at a bar bat mitzvah in religious school. But often they say, wow, you really get this person. Wow. And I often say, it's called sacred listening. If you can listen, you don't even need to have the right answer back. You don't have to have a response. If you're listening, that is what is required of you. You don't have to give the answer, but you have to be able to hear the people. So Pesach is coming. God willing, we have somewhere to go, somewhere to be, somewhere to celebrate, but also to remember. So when you're gathering at your Pesach Seder, imagine yourself totally, fully immersed in Torah by retelling the story, making an exodus of our own. In life in general, do we do things wholeheartedly? Do we make our own sacrifices on behalf of ourselves or for the better of our family, our community, our world? Are we truly thankful and willed with gratitude? Also in this week's Parsha, it says Thanksgiving. It talks about the Thanksgiving offering for expressing one's gratitude to God for the deliverance from danger and misfortune, taking us out of a place of narrowness, a place of uncertainty. But we were going to uncertainty. We kind of knew for certain that it was going to be build a pyramid, get treated poorly, be sweating, be crying. That's what it is. But when we express gratitude in thanksgiving for our deliverance out of a place, to look back and say, I've escaped misfortune and danger. When we think of the word Thanksgiving, it most often parallels with the fourth Thursday of November when we gather for this festive meal, and there's always conversation surrounding Native Americans and cornucopia and debates about who was here and why are we celebrating it? Is it obsolete, or does it have anything to do with our history? Does it really just have to do with giving thanks for the blessings of harvest for the preceding year, or who's sitting at our table this year that we invited in, or who's missing? Some of us take it a step further at a Thanksgiving table and share what we're deeply thankful for in our own lives. And there's some shame to this practice. Giving thanks or gratitude shouldn't be once a year on Thanksgiving and maybe a second time on Pesach. Okay, we're not slaves anymore. Although, in talking with my students yesterday and the day before, I said, as Jews, or you as a Jew, I'm asking you particularly, do you feel a sense of freedom in today's world? And not one student in the last 2 days said yes, which is sad. These are young kids under the age of 14, is what I've had the last 2 days. And they said, I feel free and I feel safe in this room, in this moment. But as Jews, no. Do I feel like on Passover that I'm going to be feeling free? Sometimes in other years, these were things they said. Sometimes in other years, I felt like a little free or more free. But this year and last year, not so much. And so I reminded them of this. Yes, we are not free. Yes, it feels like sometimes that we're still in Egypt. It feels like we are still under Egyptian rule. It feels like sometimes we're still slaves, 100%. But we expressed and we talked about and we unpacked this idea of Thanksgiving and Pesach versus regular everyday life. And that giving thanks should not just happen on those 2 days where we're remembering our freed ancestors from slavery. That there are moments of thanksgiving and gratitude that can happen each and every day. The prayer, the wake-up prayer, the alarm clock. I can tell you transparently that today when I woke up, which I don't even know when that was, 1:45 a.m., Moda Ani were the furthest words from my lips. I am grateful. In these moments of last night, I was not grateful at all. 2 coughs and a puke from one kid. Woke the next one up. Couldn't console that one. They woke the brother up. And at no moment did I feel grateful. And hours went by and cleaned up, got them settled, whatever. He went back to sleep. I got back in the bed for all of an hour and 10 minutes until they were actually up for the day. And when the morning unfolded, it still wasn't great. But then there was a moment of gratitude. So it comes, but you don't necessarily have it in the moment, and it's okay. Because overall, yes, still Thanksgiving and gratitude is always, but we have moments where we're like, no, this doesn't feel good. I don't feel any gratitude in any moment, and I am not thankful. And it's okay, because the moments will come. Ellis went to school late today because he couldn't get it together this morning. And as he got out of the car, I said, today is going to be a good day. We're going to reset ourselves. It's your Pesach celebration at school. And today is going to be a great day. And he looked at me and he said that he said, I love you, Ima. And I said, I love you too. And he turned and he said, even when I'm not a good listener. And I said, yep, even when you're not a good listener. I will always love you. When you're not a good listener, it makes it hard for me to stay calm and happy. But I still love you anyway. He got a big smile on his face, and into school he went. And so we realize that that is a moment of gratitude, that he's 4, that he understood that today was not a good start to the day. The overnight was not his fault. I mean, please. But this morning he wouldn't get ready. And it was, on his scooter, his clothes were off, he wasn't getting dressed yet, he's riding a scooter around. I'm like, we have to go, you're late. Did I miss the Pledge of Allegiance yet? I'm like, yeah, well, you're missing it because we're late. And I said, when you're late, it makes Ema late for work, and then it's a whole cycle of not great. But the realization by a 4-year-old that used his own words to say, even when I'm not listening or behaving, that today is going to be a better day, that he's going to try harder. I didn't ask him for any of this. He has this rash on his leg, and so I was going to put Cord-Aid on it so it wouldn't be itchy. And he thought he was funny. So he hid the Cord-Aid on purpose. And it's always funny because he loves to hide things and you have to find them. And it's funny, but it's not funny when you're already late. And so he said, I'm going to do a mitzvah. I'm like, he likes to throw my words back. You love when I do a mitzvah, because he knew I was mad. I'm going to find you the cream. Like, the cream is really to benefit you. I don't care about the cream, but he's going to do a mitzvah. So the whole morning he was acting out, but then trying to, win me back. Those are moments of gratitude. You know that you've instilled something even when it's not going so easy. And so we're so hyper-focused, but we need to be so aware that there is a bigger picture in life. These little things are not a big deal. They are in the moment. Trust me. Trust me, this wasn't a good morning. And we get caught in the balagan, the craziness of daily existence. But we're reminded how thankful and grateful it is that we need to do all of it, from head to mid to bottom. That is gratitude. Not that I have blood on my ear and blood on my thumb and blood on my toe and only on the right side, but it is the idea of wholeness. That there are always going to be parts that don't feel like they're good enough. But yet when we look at the full picture and we can still recognize that the good is already ours, opening that trait of thankfulness, there is so much good in all of our lives. There is no limit to what we don't have. And if that's where our focus is, it'll be endlessly filled with dissatisfaction. I promise. But when we find gratitude, when we find thanksgiving, there will be benefits. No matter what. Gratitude cannot coexist. It exists no matter what. Gratitude can't coexist with arrogance, resentment, and selfishness. So maybe it is our reminder as we go into Pesach to start our own Musar practice, our own personal growth toward gratitude. Because guess what? Second day of Pesach starts what? Many of our favorite times of year. That which is counting the Omer. The Omer counting for me stopped in the midst of it last year. But this year, we're going to show up each and every night to work on our own spiritual practice, to be aware of our blessings, to dig deeper in ourselves, to have a place of positive personal growth. May we all be blessed with strength to overcome the darkness, the pain, the suffering. May our whole self, all of our senses, be open to hear the cries for help, to see the beauty in the world, to touch the hearts of others, to smell God's essence, to taste the sweetness of diversity and acceptance. The time is now. Let's do our work together. We are one human family, one heart of abundant love. We love you. We can't wait to continue our connection as we go forward. Thank you for joining me, Elisa and Linda, Paula, Jennifer, Suze, Anne. For those who have not checked in, because the number is higher than the check-in rate. Things will be okay. They don't feel okay in this moment. But remember, they can get worse, for sure. But they can always get better. And if we cut off our ability to see, even in theory, it just doesn't have to be lip service. Oh, I know things could be better. Just knowing that better can exist is our springboard towards working toward it. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Thank you for being here, Martine. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael, Am Yisrael Chai. Or Avinu Chai. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning, everybody. Have a great day.